Interurban rail networks were popping around everywhere during the 1910s and 20s. They were like miniature commuter rail systems in a way, taking patrons from the rural and metro area suburbs into the downtown city streets with speedy electric interurban railcars. Interurban railcars were basically like your conventional 1925 streetcar, except they were geared to run way faster than 20 miles an hour, and in some cases, they were streamlined. Interurbans were literally everywhere to be found, sometimes in places you'd never expect them to be. For example, Niagara Falls. Most of the popular interurbans originate from the American Midwest, most commonly in states like Illinois and Ohio. Speaking of Ohio, let's head there for today. In the bustling city of Cincinnati, public transportation consisted of streetcars, long-distance luxury trains in some cases, and a small bus network. It also just started to get traffic from interurban railways, including one that formed in 1930 as a merger of another previously merged interurban railway. In 1926, the Cincinnati, Hamilton, and Dayton Railroad was formed to provide interurban service across the namesake cities and their metro areas, which often included a lot of bits of Ohio countryside. Before this railroad came about, the popular and very expensive Ohio Electric Railway existed until 1921. The CH&D would operate until about 1930, when it was merged in today's Star Railroad, the Cincinnati and Lake Erie Railroad. The management of the newly formed Cincinnati and Lake Erie saw that their predecessors had them use heavier and older interurban railcars and wanted to replace its fleet with new ones that would be lighter, lower to the ground, passenger comfortable, and power efficient. This would become the norm for most railroads around the world around this time, as streamlining and building lightweight material really came about in 1934, when the New York Central Railroad unveiled its Commodore Vanderbilt streamlined train between New York City and Chicago. Nonetheless, the railroad worked together with the Cincinnati Car Company to produce the flashy new interurban railcars, which were given the nickname Red Devils. Altogether, 20 of these railcars were built, and they were meant to be luxurious, and they were. The Devils had leather bucket seats, a luggage compartment, toilet, subdued lighting, and could seat up to 40 people depending on how the seats were organized, according to Wikipedia. These railcars were also the first to be built partially out of aluminum. This would prove to be problematic as the riveting of aluminum plates to a steel frame produced some type of chemical reaction that gave rise to corrosion on the side panels and the front and rear dashers. Soon enough, these problems were fixed up when some of the aluminum parts were replaced with steel. With their bright red paint scheme and Art Deco styling, the Red Devils lived up to their purpose of luxury, as half of the 20 cars built were parlor cars and the other half were first class. Man, imagine how expensive it was to ride one of these back in the 30s. Now for the technical specifications and performance figures. All the Red Devil cars had a length of 44 feet and 9 inches, a width of 8 feet, and 28-inch wheel diameters, which obviously ran on American standard gauge tracks. These cars were very fast, as you might expect, as they had a top speed of 90 miles per hour in revenue service, and they only weighed 24 tons. In terms of power, they only had 4 electric motors that produced 100 horsepower each. Now, back to the history. Speaking of top speed, as I literally just said, the Red Devils had a top speed of 90 miles per hour. Mind you, at the time, that was faster than one of the named luxurious trains in the UK called the Cheltenham Spa Express, as the steam locomotive used on that service only went up to 80 miles an hour. The railcars also had a close battle with Germany's flying hamburger train, as it also had a top speed of 90 miles per hour. However, that train wasn't inaugurated until 1933. In fact, at the time, planes were only starting to break the 200 mile per hour mark, but small planes still existed. In 1930, when the Red Devils were new, a publicity event was organized wherein one of the railcars literally raced a plane! I am so serious. Even though it was staged, it's still one of the coolest things that they were known for. Even though the Devils only reached 90 miles per hour in revenue service, car number 126 managed to exceed that and hit 97 miles per hour during the race, beating the plane, according to William Middleton's book, The Interurban Era. Now, if that's not incredibly cool for something that looks like a streetcar, I don't know what is. The train's high speeds led to the railway giving them their own limited service names like Meteor, Arrowhead, and Rocket. They each ran 3 times a day in each direction between Detroit and Cincinnati, a distance of roughly 270 miles. Sadly, with new faster trains came competition from cars, as per usual. By the early to mid-30s, fancier and more luxurious cars were rolling out faster than interurban railcar production. People ultimately chose the cars over the trains, which is what led to the fall of many major interurban railroads, including the Cincinnati and Lake Erie. Another downfall of this railroad was the Great Depression, which was in effect until 1941. The C&L's freight business collapsed in 1938, following suit to its interchange partner, the Lakeshore Electric. The whole railroad would wind up being completely abandoned and closed off in 1939, and soon most of Ohio's other interurbans would follow suit. Ohio's last interurban railroad was the West Penn Railway, which surprisingly lasted until 1952. But what about the Red Devil cars, you're probably asking? Well, thankfully, it's mostly a happy ending for them. The Red Devils were all sold. From my knowledge, none were immediately scrapped. According to Wikipedia, 6 of the 20 Red Devils were sold to the Cedar Rapids and Iowa City Railroad, or the Crandall Line, and 13 were sold to the Lehigh Valley Transit Company. An individual car, number 119, was held for preservation and was on static display at the Ohio Railway Museum in Worthington, Ohio. I don't know if it's still there though, as the only photos I'm seeing of it are from the 1960s. So if anyone has been to this museum recently, can you let me know in the comments? Thanks. Car 105 was also not immediately scrapped, but sadly it was left to rot somewhere for decades. It has likely been scrapped for years now, but again, I do not know as there are very limited sources. The Red Devils were highly successful high-speed electric trains that almost looked no different than streetcars. The Great Depression was a huge player to the downfall of its home railroad, and cars were another hard uppercut to the general interurban network. Thankfully, the railcars found life on other railroads, but I doubt any survived today, unfortunately. If you've enjoyed this video, you can like, subscribe, do whatever. As always, I am not telling you what to do. Thank you all for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Farewell and have an awesome day.